Welcome to Terminator 2D No Fate, based on a movie from over 30 years ago that everyone had given up hope of ever getting a good Terminator 2D game in their lifetime, but here we are. Okay guys, welcome to this quick review of Terminator 2D No Fate. We're just going to have a quick overview of the game, look at the different aspects of it, and I'll tell you what I like and what I think. But spoiler, it's a bloody good game, so let's get on with it.
Playable characters.
So, characters, eh? Well, there's 4 in total you'll be playing throughout the game, and they have different amount of levels dedicated to them depending on the character, and they do play slightly differently too. You'll find yourself jumping between one and the other throughout the course of the game, so it's a nice little mix. Stop things getting stale and too boring, and they're all represented really nicely as well. First up, we have Sarah Connor. Now this is the badass gun-toting version of Sarah Connor from the second movie obviously, and she has a few tricks up her sleeve to give her enemies some trouble. So she has a slide attack and a melee attack, so these can both be used to interrupt enemies. Occasionally you'll get some that have shields which are immune to gunfire until you knock the shields out of their hand, and then you can take them out, which is nice and handy. And the slide attack can be used to get out of trouble as well sometimes. Other than that, she plays really well, nice and smooth, animations are really cool. She's probably the character you'll play as most throughout the course of the levels. I think just over half of the levels in the game are dedicated to Sarah Connor, and it's not a bad thing, plays nicely. Sometimes you'll be using a pistol on most levels, occasionally you can find a machine gun hidden away, increases your firepower quite a bit, and without spoiling too much, there's also some more advanced futuristic weaponry that she'll be using as well. One other thing to mention is Sarah Connor can't run and gun, she has to stop to shoot, which is a slight difference between her son John Connor, which we'll come on to now. John Connor, the leader of the resistance and humanity's only hope until I'm controlling him. But besides that, John is pretty nice to play. He's quite similar to Sarah Connor in the fact that he has a maneuver to get out of trouble. This time he's got a roll rather than a slide. So I don't think this damages enemies, but it does kind of phase through them and you can avoid gunfire with it, so it really comes in handy. Other than that, he doesn't have a melee attack. This time he has grenades or pipe bombs that he can throw. He does have a limited supply. I think you can pick up some throughout the course of the level, and all in all he plays really nice. The big difference between him and Sarah is he can run and gun. I'm guessing because he's supposed to be a trained soldier, so he's more experienced, and that really comes in handy for the more difficult hectic levels and the bosses. Other than that, you'll be playing a good amount of levels as John Connor. His levels are set in the future using all the advanced weaponry, so all in all he plays pretty well. Very similar to Sarah in many respects, but a few key differences.
I'll be back.
And then we have Mr. Chuckles himself, the T-800 Terminator, Big Arnie. So there's about 2 or 3 levels you play as the Terminator, but just to bear in mind this can be affected by what decisions you make throughout the story mode. But the levels you play as the T-800 are all good fun, you know, you're packing heavy weaponry as you'd expect, and he walks and moves like a tank. So he's not the quickest as you'd expect, but he can take a damn fine beating. He also has some cool mechanics on how he takes damage and how he loses life. So on one level you're in the famous bike bar scene, and rather than taking damage he just loses time when you get hit, because guys with pull cues and punches aren't going to hurt the Terminator, so you lose too much time and it's game over. In other levels he can reboot himself, so he has an alternate power supply that reroutes and gets him back on his feet, and that's pretty damn cool as you can see here. So yeah, the Terminator's good fun, but he just has some brief appearances, but it's just enough to give you that taste of what it's like to play as him, so all in all good fun. And finally you've got John Connor, the young version. I'm only really pointing John out because although you see him quite a bit during the game, you only get to play as him once, and that's during the motorbike scene where the T-1000 is chasing him, which is more of a dodge the obstacles type of level, but it's nice that they've included it, and it makes sense you're not really playing as him too much considering, you know, what happens in the events of the film. So all in all, you have a nice mix of characters. Most of the time you're going to be playing as the Connors, Sarah and John, which is not a bad thing. They control really well, no problems there. Nice variety of weapons and the fun to play, a bit like Contra. And for some reason, especially the Sarah Connor, it really reminds me of Aliens 3 on the Mega Drive if you've played that. The style, the running and gunning, how the levels are set out. So yeah, and that's not a bad thing because that was a pretty decent game.
Game modes.
First up, we have Story Mode. So Story Mode is one of those modes available to you right at the beginning of the game. There's no unlocking required. So this includes the full range of levels in the game, all 15 of them. Now which ones you play will depend on which route you go through the game, because there are a couple of points in the game where you have to make a decision on how to respond. And the first time you go through, you'll only have one choice. So that encourages a couple of extra playthroughs where you pick the other options. You'll get different endings and different levels depending on what you pick. There is an option where you'll go through the full 15 levels. One of the other choices you'll go through slightly less than that, but it's nice that you've got some choice there with different routes through the game and different variety and levels available. That's pretty cool. And also you'll have continues available. There's no lives and continues, it's just referred to as continues. So you die, you use a continue, you start again at a checkpoint or at the beginning of a level depending on when you died. And if you complete the story mode, you'll unlock other things as well. So in summary, think of the story mode as your main meat of the game. You use it to unlock other things, you experience all the levels, and it has cutscenes, the full story of the game. There are some additional levels which aren't strictly from the movie, but they follow the same theme and spirit of the main movie, so they fit in nicely, and that's what makes up your 15 levels. So overall, this leads to a pretty nice experience, and you get a lot of bang for your buck here, plenty of content, even though a typical playthrough may only take you about 35-45 minutes at most, depending on the difficulty. It's a good amount of content for an arcade game like this. Moving on to arcade mode. Now this most closely resembles the arcade experience. All the fluff, the extra content such as cutscenes are taken out of the game. Any levels which weren't based on a movie scene are also removed. So if you just want that Terminator 2 movie experience chronologically like in the movie, arcade mode is the one for you. The key difference between story mode and arcade mode is in story mode you get continues, in arcade mode you get one life. That's it. Die once, back to the main menu, you have to try again. So that's where the challenge lies, especially on the higher difficulty levels. So then we've got infinite mode, and this is one of the ones which is unlocked by completing other parts of the game. So infinite mode, as the name suggests, you're just playing a character, moving along, killing endless enemies, and it progressively gets harder. You probably played something like this in other games, you'll be familiar with it. I found it okay for a little while. I did find it a bit lacking in variety because you've only kind of got one scene in the background from what I've seen. So if they ever expand on this and they add more background scenery, that would really make it a much better and more interesting mode to play. But it's nice they've included it, even if I think probably a bit of an afterthought to be honest, but it's nice that it's there. We have boss rush mode. So boss rush mode, as the name suggests, you're just going through all the bosses in the game. Now I think you might have to have encountered those bosses throughout the story or arcade mode before you can do them in boss rush. So you do each one after the other, from the earliest bosses to the last bosses, and each time you defeat one you'll have a bit more life granted back to you, and I think it's another grenade returned to you. So there's some incentive to kind of completing the levels and maintaining your health to get through to those harder bosses where you're going to really need the health and the grenades. So it's a fun little challenge. I enjoyed it. I probably spent a good amount of time completing it, and that was only on the normal difficulty, and we'll come on to difficulty modes in a second. So then you have Mother of the Future mode. Now I think they've included this because if you play the arcade mode, you're probably not going to be playing as Sarah Connor anywhere near as much as the story mode. So I think they've included Mother of the Future because this only has levels in it with Sarah Connor. So it's kind of like, if you just want to play the Sarah Connor levels, go with Mother of the Future and you'll just go for all of those. So, you know, is it amazing? No, it's just kind of a different order of levels, but it's nice that it's there. It's a cool little inclusion. And then finally, another thing that's unlocked from the start is level training. So if you fancy practice in a level that's giving you some trouble or on a harder difficulty, again, you might, I'm not entirely sure on this, you might have to complete the level before it's available in level training, ironically enough. Or you might need to complete a certain difficulty before you can attempt it in level training.
Difficulty options.
The game has 4 levels of difficulty, so you have Easy Money, No Problemo, Hasta la Vista and Judgment Day. The first 3 are unlocked when you start the game, the last one you have to unlock by completing Hasta la Vista. Just a recommendation here, I would say start on No Problemo, medium difficulty, shouldn't give you too many problems, maybe until the later levels where you're less familiar with the game on your first couple of runs. Easy Money is really easy, it's probably not worth bothering with unless you want to infinite continue, very relaxed experience. All you got to kids playing. Hasta La Vista is a significant jump up in difficulty. There's more enemies, they take more damage, they react quicker, there's more level hazards, and the bosses are often harder as well with additional enemies with them that you don't get in the easier difficulties. There's a nice mix of difficulty here, lots of replayability, and I like how they've upped it up a little bit when you up the difficulty level as well to make things a bit more interesting. No idea how hard Judgment Day is going to be, but I'm guessing that's going to be a right here puller, but that'll be interesting finding out.
Graphics and audio.
What can I say about the graphics? They are beautifully done. Pixel art is really nicely detailed, the animation is smooth, all the characters look really good, as you'd expect. The likenesses are really well done. For some reason they couldn't get Arnold Schwarzenegger's likeness in the game. Guessing this is because of money, licensing options, who knows, but they've worked around it quite nicely. There's a lot of nice parallax scrolling, some of the backgrounds are really well done, and there's a few sections where you can kind of see some interesting things going on in the background, which is coming up ahead in the level you're on, which is very nicely done. There's a few graphical options in the options menu in terms of a CRT filter. In this review I've got the CRT filter enabled simply because if you're on a bigger screen sitting close it looks better than if you have it off, but if you're sitting far away then it's probably not needed. Moving on to the audio side of things, the music is beautiful, pretty amazing to be honest. I love it. If you're a Terminator 2 fan, which I'm guessing a lot of people watching this will be, then you'll have all the familiar movie tracks on here straight out of the movie. There's even a couple of licensed ones where Arnie goes into the biker bar, Bad to the Bone, and another track I forget the name of. So it's nice that they've got those two, and it's really iconic when you're going into that bar scene. It really adds to the experience. The non-movie tracks are also excellently done. They really stick to the Terminator 2 theme nicely. They match really well. The boss battle music is excellent. Here's a quick sample. Pretty amazing, I'm sure you'd agree. It really gets the blood pumping as you're on those boss battles, and audio wise the whole game is really nicely done. They've done a stellar job. The sound effects are really nice, pumping, great sound effects for the weapons, the explosions, gunfire, all the energy weapons sound like they do in the movie, which is excellent. So to be honest, graphics wise and audio wise I can't fault the game. They've done a really great job here. Oh, and special mention, the game even has a music player option, so if you love all these music tracks you can listen to them at your leisure, and it's a really nice feature, especially if you're making content like this, so thank you developers.
Replayability.
So in terms of replayability, I've seen a lot of people complain that, the game's quite quick to complete. So you're talking about anywhere from about half an hour to 45 minutes, depending on the difficulty and how many problems you have with restarting levels and that sort of thing. But, way under an hour, you can easily complete the game. But then again, this is an arcade game. It really is. It's meant for quick play. Like the old console games, you have a blast through the game, about half an hour to an hour. It's not a 10 to 15 hour experience going through the story. It's a wham bam, enjoy your time in the game. It's for the Terminator 2 fans out there who want to get immersed in the sound, music, story, the characters of the film, and that's what it's really for, and that's perfect because you don't necessarily need a massive game. All games don't have to be this long, epic saga. You just want a quick blast, install a game every so often. Maybe you've seen the movie again, you think, hey, I want to install Terminator 2D No Fate, have a blast for a few hours, come back to it months down the line, weeks, whatever, and then enjoy it again. And you've also got all the game modes I mentioned to add some more variety and different difficulty settings and unlocking achievements and other things if that's kind of what you're into. I just have to give a quick shout out to the level variety in this game, which is absolutely wonderful. So on some levels you'll be running and gunning, shooting, you'll have horizontal levels, you'll have vertical sections where you're going up and down. Like I said, it reminds me of Aliens 3 on the Mega Drive. There's loads of Contra references, such as scenes like these.
Warning. Warning.
Then you'll have levels where you're driving vehicles, you're switching between driving and dodging obstacles, then you're shooting enemies, then you've got stealth sections such as the Sarah Connor asylum scene, and these are all intermingled, expertly spread throughout the game, so you've got a nice amount of variety, plus you're switching between the different characters. It's bloody brilliant, guys. The variety in this game is excellent. Although it's a quick experience, it really does keep things fresh. I mean, you've even got a beat 'em up section with the Terminator in the bar. I mean, what else could you ask for? So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to that. They've done a great job, these developers.
In summary.
So to summarize this game up is quite easy for me. Now, very quick story. This game has a special place for me because when I was young, just after seeing the movie, I remember trying to draw a comic book version of the movie. Now, I didn't manage that because I didn't have the patience or the skill, but this game to me is the picture from my mind back then in video game format, and they've done such a great job, the developers of this game, which is, I failed to mention, Bitmap Bureau. You may know them from Xeno Crisis, which is available on everything basically, even the Mega Drive. Another great game, check that out. But this game is a literal love letter to the movie for arcade fans who enjoy these quick arcade experiences, want the Terminator 2 experience with the music, the art, the dedication for the source material. You can obviously tell the developers loved this film. They wanted to do it justice, and they certainly have, because there's clear signs in every inch of this game, every fibre of it, that care and attention has been paid to making a really great game based on the movie experience. And come on, how often do we get really good movie tie-in games? Since forever. So I hope Bitmap Bureau go on, and I do believe they're doing a He-Man Masters of the Universe game, and that already looks amazing, so look out for that next year. And I think they're going to go on to do wonderful things, because you can see the love in this game, and it's a dream come true for me, and it came out of nowhere. Well, enjoy it, guys, have fun, and as always, thank you for watching and sticking through this kind of long review, but I wanted to try and do it justice and put a bit of extra effort in on this one, so thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye for now.